And what was your first impression of seeing the sea?
Oh, God. It was wonderful, really it was wonderful. None of us had seen it. Maish, Faye, Sarah, maybe Jack had, I think, possibly, because Jack was going to go up north and he was going to join up to go and fight in North Africa. So
was this your
holiday before?
This was your holiday before he was going to the army? And you were around about 14 then?
No, I was 13 because it was...
in March?
I just turned 13 in November of 39, and this was March of 40.
Yes. So we've just gone into your teenage years, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Tell me about that first holiday that you had in Ghana.
It was a lovely holiday, man. We stayed at the Lucy's Hotel. It was owned by Mr. Ginsberg, the caterer in Johannesburg. And when we didn't arrive, we were supposed to arrive at supper time that night, and we didn't arrive. We were 3 or 4 hours late. Mr. Ginsberg had arranged a platter of sandwiches for our family, for the 6 of us to eat because they knew who they were dealing with. The money wasn't freely flowing, but they battled to have a holiday, and we had it.
Yeah.
So I remember that big platter, half the size of this table, assorted sandwiches. And that was Lucy's Hotel. Beautiful, beautiful holiday, man.
What was the hotel like?
Oh, it was lovely. I'd never stayed in a hotel or anything before. Yes. It was a lovely hotel. Lovely. It was on the corner of Smith Street and something.
Was it close to the beach?
Yeah, like 2 blocks away. We used to go to swim in the beach in the morning early before breakfast. Jack took us, Maish and I.
Was Jack like a father figure?
Yes, he was a hell of a father figure. Wonderful man. Wonderful man.
So you'd go for a swim before breakfast? Before
breakfast, come home and have breakfast, go to the beach for the whole morning, come home and have lunch, go to the beach in the afternoon. It was just living a good life, man. And I remember a little blonde girl who was staying in the hotel. I don't remember her name or anything, and nothing happened between us. I was never, but I just remember I used to eye this little girl. She was a pretty blonde girl, long blonde hair. And I used to look at her, and you look at her, never anything.
Yeah. That sounds like a wonderful holiday.
Yeah.
Well, she married a blonde.
Mick, I always liked brunettes.
So, just going back to those early years, up to say the age of around about 12.
Yeah.
And you've told us a little bit of your relationship with your siblings, and you have described Maish quite a bit, so we're getting a good picture of Maish. Can you just describe the characteristics of your siblings as you recall them during your early years after your father passed away? So you've got Jack.
Jack, yes, a great guy, really a great guy. He's
just in the early years, how you saw him, yeah.
Jack was like a father figure. One day, I was a little kid watching Jack shave in the bathroom, and I remember something, and I said, "Oh, now I can't have a bloody bath." And I was a little kid. He gave me one clout across my face, and I started to cry, my lips started to quiver, and I went walking. He said, "You stay here." And I stood there and watched him shave. That's the control he had. And he actually brought up the whole family, quite frankly. He was that good. Then there was Harry. Always admired Harry. He was the go-getter. He was a modern, used to bring home different cars from the firm. He was a lovely person.
Was he outgoing?
Yeah, he was an outgoing guy. My mother was always worried that he wouldn't marry a Jewish girl, but he did.
He did.
And
when did your brothers Jack and Harry actually get married?
Jack got married just before he went up north in December 1940.
And who did he marry?
Zelda Levy. Labe.
Yeah.
And Mickey knows Zelda well. They're a wonderful woman. That was a wonderful partnership.
In what way?
Because they were both such gooders, you know. They're
Yes,
good
yes.
people, both of them.
So we
Good.
will discuss that he got married before
Yeah.
he went into the army.
Yes. Then he was up north for 27 months,
Was
2 years and 2.25 years, and then he came. But he didn't go up north in March. He joined the army in December. He joined the army in December, because in December I was on holiday in Durban again with my brother Norman. Just Norman and I. And we got a telephone call or telegram, whatever, to say Jack's going up north and he's getting married before he goes up north. So he got married on the 31st of December 1940. And within a month or so he went up north.
I want to discuss that further,
Yeah.
about that later. So we were just talking about, so that's Jack. And you
then,
said,
and then Simon or Harry,
why was Harry's name changed to Simon?
his name was, his birth certificate read Simon Harry Levy.
Yes.
And he was always known as Simon Harry Levy. And then when he started with the girls, Simon was a little bit too, not to say anglicized or whatever. And either he or this one girl who he married decided...
It was Hilda, didn't
It was Hilda, yeah. His name, Harry, what are you talking, Simon? Harry. And we got, over the years, we got used to calling him Harry. His name was Simon Hirschel. That's his Jewish name. Simon Hirschel, which is Simon Harry. So it became Harry. And his garages were known as Harry Levy's. We had garages.
And was Simon a father figure at all, or not really?
Not to the same extent.
Yes.
Sarah and Stella were like mother figures even though my mother was there. They used to spoil me. I don't know, they loved me, you know.
And what was Sarah like?
Sarah
Just remembering her as a young woman.
Sarah was a diabetic when she was 12. And she used to go, her face used to go all purple, and she had an overload of sugar, and insulin had just been discovered a couple of months before. So she had daily injections of insulin. Christ, man, in those days, you know, the insulin, the treatment today is so much improved and modernized, and she had this daily injection of insulin, which she used to do herself. Sometimes she used to overdo it, and then she was to schlep the ambulance, used to come and take her to hospital for a day or so, and she'd come home. So, but she had that problem, 12-year-old girl.
And what kind of person was she when she was young?
She was also a good woman. A little bit, she didn't take much bulldozing from anyone. She gave Mickey a mouthful when I first brought you home.
When you brought your wife, when you brought Mickey, who was then to become your wife.
Girl. She was 16 or 17. I don't know what Sarah said. What you said, don't you speak to me like that or something. What did she say?
I don't remember.
But I do remember
Yes.
a bit of a blast.
I haven't got the memory you got.
And Norman?
Norman,
So Norman was 10 years older than you.
yes. Norman I got on least well. I did not get on with him, but he was in a different
Category.
not the family man that the others were.
So what did Norman do after school?
He became a welder.
Oh yes, you said so.
He used to weld tissue paper together.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And also very aggressive, very short-tempered, beautiful voice. The only one in the family who really had a classy voice, Norman. And also not scared of anyone or anything. Got on well with Maish, because they were both aggressive and assertive and argumentative.
Were they physically large, or were they just strong?
They were physically small. Maish had a problem when we were in Durban in 1940. He jumped off the pier, and he thought he was jumping onto soft. I was there with him and Jack, and he thought it was soft sand, but it was water sand, which is as hard as this table. And he damaged his spine a bit, but it only manifested itself later. 2 or 3 months later, he was in the Johannesburg General Hospital for 2 or 3 weeks, but he got right. But he was shorter than me, and I'm not the tallest bloke in the world. Norman was also short. And I think that's what made them aggressive, in the sense that both, not big tall men, Simon and Jack were tallish, you know, Simon wasn't 6 foot, Jack was. Simon was about 5'10". Yes. Harry was about 5'10" or 5'11". Jack was 6 foot. Sarah was a strong, big woman, and then Norman was a shorty, but he was strong. And then Stella was a lovely figure. She was a lovely girl. And Faye was the only member in our family who my mother didn't have breast milk for. She wasn't breastfed. And they put down a lot of her illnesses, that rheumatic fever and that St. Vitus dance and her her weakness was because of the fact that she had cow's milk as a baby, you see. And in those days they didn't have any additives or you know, these supplements in the diet. She just had cow's milk.
Yes.
And then that's how it affected her. Yeah, so that's describing Norman to you. Norman was a bit different somehow. Didn't take bull, you know, to be blunt, he didn't take bullshit from anyone. And he would argue and fight. He was one of those types.
Was there a lot of rough and tumble activities in your house?
Never fighting, never physical. No, the only time was when Mace threw me across the room, but that was because I tormented him to hell. No, we were actually a loving family. That was a loving, lovely home.
And how did they treat your mother?
Oh, absolutely. With the greatest respect and concern, looking after her, always.
Let's talk about your bar mitzvah.
Okay.
So we've spoken about your primary school years.
Yes.
Before we speak about your bar mitzvah, is there anything you'd like to add about your primary school years?
You know, it's hard to just conjure up what happened, but I had I finished school, primary school, standard 5, you know, they were standards then.
Yes.
Which I suppose today is considered to be level 7 or something. Standard 5 in 1939, when the war broke out. I remember coming home from school, and my mother was sitting in the kitchen weeping her eyes out because war had broken out, and war was about to break out. It was the 1st of September. War broke out on the 3rd of September, but this was the 1st, and the kids were being taken away from their parents in London, and it was on the radio, the wireless, what we called the wireless then. And she was listening to this broadcast and she was crying. And then 2 days later, war broke out. That was all prior to my becoming bar mitzvah in November. In November the 19th, which was my proper date I had what the Reverend Vayetse was the name of my parsha. Vayetse, and I had a lovely, lovely bar mitzvah. We didn't have...
Who taught you for your bar mitzvah?
Reverend Kaplan, the same one.
And did you have to go to the shul to have your lessons?
Yes, to go to the shul every lesson once or twice, or the cheder. I think it was the cheder. He used to teach at the cheder, and he's once or twice a week used to have a lesson after cheder, and after cheder on a Sunday morning. And I'll even tell you how much money I got. After the shul service, there was a brocha in the shul just one long table in the shul. We had a lachaim, kichel and herring and cold drinks, and that was the brocha. And I got presents, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, altogether from all the family who ever gave, came to about £40.
Was that a lot of money?
Well, a hell of a lot of money.
And what did you do with it?
I don't remember. I think I gave my mother took it. Only one who could have taken it. I never saw it, but I think it was £40.
And do you remember the actual day of your bar mitzvah being called up?
Yes, I remember
Tell me
sitting in
about it.
shul.
Yes.
Yes, the people I was with in shul I was sitting in my father's seat with, we were all there. There was me, Jack, and Harry, and I think Norman was there, and my sister-in-law, Hilda, her husband was Harry. Hilda married Harry.
Yeah.
Her father, Sam Bauer, was in shul. Those were the 4 or 5 of us in shul. And I was terrified, as all kids are. And I was called up and I did it beautifully. I sang well and I sang it without a hitch.
And did your brother act as your father on that day?
Yes.
Was it Harry?
Jack.
Jack, yeah.
Jack was the one.
That,
Yeah. And then I also got, this is probably where some of the money of my bar mitzvah went. My mother bought me a Hercules bicycle.
and what was a Hercules bicycle?
The two-wheeler bicycle was like the Rolls Royce of bicycles, Hercules, and she paid £3.19 £3.19 was the price. We got all this from another Jewish resident of shopkeeper in La Rochelle who I didn't mention, Mr. Garb, G-A-R-B, who had the bicycle shop and records. And when we had parties in our house over the years, all the girls at the parties, he used to give us all the records to play and he took them back to sell. And one of the songs was that I remember from those parties, Blue Moon. You know Blue Moon? Blue Moon, you left me standing alone. That one was one. And they used to have big parties in our house.
Was this during your teen years?
I'm talking about the early years,
Early years.
prior to my bar mitzvah, 10 years old, 10 years old.
So why was your house chosen?
Because there was an open house, man. Everybody used to come there. We had a neighbour called Mrs. Henning, for example. Mrs. Henning had 2 children, Jacob, Yaki Henning. We used to call him Yaki, that was his name.
Were they Afrikaners? Or?
Yeah, Afrikaners, and Rita. Elsie Henning. Elsie Henning and Yaki. Yaki got killed during the war, Second World War, in the forces. When she had to go away, for some reason or another, Mrs. Henning, to the farm, they were proper Afrikaners. Her daughter Elsie stayed in our house for 2 or 3 weeks, whatever. And I remember eating with us and everything, and she used to say, "Pass me the milky knife, please." This little girl was learning to be a Jewess. They became very good. They were always good friends with my sisters.
So who used to come to these parties of yours?
Young men. The party, like my sisters were now like 15 and 16 and 17, those years.
Yes.
And they used to have friends, and my brother's friends. And they used to dance like, Mick, don't carry that like that, brother. And they used to dance they were parties, they danced, they played these records and they danced and sang. It was lovely, man. And they were mostly non-Jewish because they were all neighbours and friends. Jack Clack, who married Elsie Henning, Jarvis Wilson, George Turner, Harry Turner. They were all friends of my brothers. And they were all at the party.
And did you have a record player that you
Yeah, we got this
Continuing the interview with Michael Levy on the 13th of August 2012. So the last time we spoke, you were telling me about the new bicycle that you had.
Yeah, £3.19 and 6.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about your high school days.
Right.
And we've spoken about your bar mitzvah.
Yeah,
We've spoken about all the lovely parties you had at your house.
yeah.
Now tell me about this bicycle, because it sounded as though it was something very
The story
special.
of the bicycle is this, that this was just prior to the outbreak of war. And my mother couldn't really afford a bicycle. We were actually brandarm, you know, we weren't wealthy. So
What
anyway,
does Brant Arum
that
actually mean?
it means Aram is
Very poor.
very
Yes,
poor.
yes.
And brandarm is just an expression.
Yes.
Anyhow, so, and I was learning for my bar mitzvah. I used to go every night or a couple of nights a week. Nights meaning late afternoon.
Yeah.
To the shul to practice with the rabbi, with the reverend. There had been quite extreme efforts, or whatever you might call it, of anti-Semitism at that time, because it was just at the outbreak of war that had been in September, the 3rd of September, and this was probably around about October, November.
In what form did this anti-Semitism?
Oh, it was always just a verbal abuse more than anything else, but they were daubing the shuls and any Jewish institutions with swastikas and things
So
like that.
who was doing this?
This was
Was this the
a group,
Afrikaner?
mainly the Afrikaner, but they had all the what's the word I'm looking for of the English people?
The support.
The support, yeah. And it was very awful and very awkward. And the government provided policemen, members of the South African police force, to guard the shuls. And I had this policeman guarding the shuls, so I thought my bicycle's safe in the foyer, but it wasn't, you know, with the policeman and everything. Maybe he was the one that pinched it, but it was stolen.
So did you come out of your lesson and you found
The bike was gone. It was the most heartbreaking thing I can remember. It was terrible. It was awful. Anyhow, but I got over it.
And that was the end of the bike?
That was the end of the bike, a Hercules bike. Lovely. It was
How long did you actually have it for before it
about
started?
3 or 4 months, I think.
A very short period.
It was given to me before my bar mitzvah, and I was learning my mufti at the time when it was pinched. And my bar mitzvah was in the middle of November, the 18th of November, to be honest. And so I might have had it 2 or 3 months, maybe 4, when it was stolen. I used to walk to practice my bar mitzvah after that. I wasn't getting another bicycle.
So what high school did you go to? What was the name of the high school?
Forest High School in the southern suburbs. It was an old established high school. It was originally called Johannesburg Technical High School. That's when my brother Jack, my eldest brother Jack, had attended that same high school as I, and my brother Simon. I call him Simon because in those days he was Simon. And then none of the others, my sisters all went to commercial colleges and things like that. Norman and Maish became tradesmen, and I was the one that they could afford to keep on at school without having to go and earn money. So I did my matric there. I finished matric in 44.
But I want to go into more detail about your school years.
Yes.
But did your brothers have to, you said previously that your brothers had to leave school early to make a living.
Yes.
What age did they leave school?
Oh, I really couldn't tell you. I just know Jack, when my father died in 1933, he was 22, because he had been born in 1911. So he'd been working as an apprentice instrument maker for a number of years. Simon had been an apprentice motor mechanic, and Norman an apprentice welder. So they'd been working quite a few years. Norman not so much, Simon not so much, and Jack the most. But they were all 22 or younger. And the girls, Sarah worked and Stella worked. Stella worked at this pharmaceutical company that was called Crowden Medicines.
And were they all living at home before they got married?
All living at home right until they got married.
And did they all help your mother financially?
Oh, yes. Actually, we were living quite comfortably by the time they all started getting
They
married.
started working. Now, let's go back to Jack for a minute. You said that he got married on the 31st of December 1940, is that right?
Yes.
And he married someone called
Zelda
Levy.
L-A-B-E.
And then a month later, he enlisted.
Yeah, well, maybe a month or two, if possible. But it was prior to March the 10th, 1940, because that's when we all went down to Durban in my brother Jack's Plymouth. Now, all of us, meaning Jack and my mother and my elder sister Sarah and my younger sister Faye and Maish and I. There were 6 of us in this Plymouth, TJ20265, by the way.
Now I'm impressed.
Yeah, that was
You remember the
number.
registration?
Oh, I remember all the numbers, mine and theirs. Anyhow, we all went down to Durban, and on the way down there, I might have mentioned
Yes,
this
you
last
did
time.
mention this.
Yes, but then after he came, he knew he was going to enlist. I don't know if he
Was he
had
enlisted or was he called out?
No, he enlisted. None of them were called up. They enlisted, both my brothers in the army, Jack and Maish, both in the Air Force.
So let's talk about Jack first.
Right.
So he was married for a very short period and then he
Yes,
enlisted.
well, no, he got married. He enlisted round about the first quarter of 1940, either just before our holiday, which I mentioned was the 10th of March,
Yes.
or afterwards, but he knew he was going to enlist or had just enlisted. I think had he enlisted he wouldn't have been able to go on this holiday, so he knew he was going to join up, and that was say March, April, and then he married Zelda in the same year, in December, because he received notification, right buddy, you're going up north.
Do you remember seeing him off?
And how was it?
Where was it? And how
Well,
did you feel?
He was going down to Durban by train, I believe. But wherever he told us we must meet him at a little station called Knights, which is one station away from Germiston. Our train will be passing through Knights. So the whole family went down to the station, including Zelda, his wife.
And you were a boy of 14 then?
Yeah, 1940, yeah. Yes. Well, I hadn't turned 14 yet. I turned 13 at the end of September, end of 1939. Yes, I was 14.
14.
And we all went to Night Station and we were terribly sad. We were all pretty heartbroken. Because this is a war.
Yes.
And he went away and he was away 27 months.
And how did his wife
Oh, Jesus.
react? This new bride.
She was as brave as anything, and a beautiful girl, Zelda. What a beauty, and what a wonderful woman. Lovely nature, everything in her favour.
Where did she live when
She
your
lived in
brother
the-
was in the army?
They bought a house in Kennedy Street, Kenilworth, 229 Kennedy Street, and they lived in that house. She lived in that house with her mother until he came back from up north.
Where was Kenilworth?
Kenilworth was adjoining Rosettenville, which I might have mentioned to you.
Yes, so it was very close to where you lived.
Yeah, pretty close. Not walking distance.
Yeah.
We used to ride there, but it was in the same Medina, the eastern part of the southern suburbs.
Now, you said your brother joined the Air Force, is that
Yes.
correct?
As an instrument maker, all his gadgets in the planes.
They were all mine sources.
Hang on, Nick. All these gadgets in the planes, the clocks and whatever the hell these things are, you know, altimeter, multimeter. He repaired and kept those things in. He was a sergeant.
And where was he sent?
He was sent up North Africa, Libya, I think it was. And then he saw some action, which was also quite terrifying. He was missing for 6 weeks at one stage at a little at one of the islands of Greece called Kos Island, C-O-S. Kos Island.
So was he actually involved in any combat?
No, he was. They had their daily raids from German planes in on their barracks, their airfields, because it was all built around an airfield, their whole camp, because there were pilots there and everything. And they used
Was this on Kos Island?
No, this was up in North Africa.
North Africa.
Yeah, it was Libya, Egypt, that Medina.
Yes.
And he told us a story or two, the first bombing raid they ever had. They were always told, listen, dig trenches, and they used to all be terribly reluctant to dig trenches. The first bombing raid they had, when the airfield was strafed by the planes and bombs dropped, in the middle of the night, the whole crew, the whole army, they just started digging trenches, because they were covering themselves with newspaper, he said. Anything, any sort of protection. And these became quite a frequent occurrence, these raids, and they didn't have much to offer as in resistance, so they made wooden anti-aircraft guns. And the Germans, on the next week or so, dropped wooden bombs to show them they were not such chochomim.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, that's one of the stories he tells.
Yeah. And so was he actually in a factory making instruments?
No, I don't think so. He had a workshop.
A workshop?
Big workshop. And he had chaps working for him in the army, and he was the boss.
Yeah, he was the boss.
And whatever, he was a hell of a perfectionist. Nothing was good enough. It had to be right, or if it wasn't right, he wasn't happy with it. That was his nature.
Yes.
So he was an extremely competent instrument maker. He was defined as a scientific and surgical instrument maker. And that's precisely what he did.
And do you know the exact cities that he was in North Africa?
No, I know he was in Libya, but I don't know the names of the towns or the cities. He was involved, it was about 25 miles away from when Montgomery started this major offensive against Rommel, which led to the subsequent invasion of Europe and everything. And they could see on the horizon the sky was bright and hear the bombs. But what the actual city was, I know that he landed up in Cairo, but I think that was on leave, and Alexandria. That was there. They might have got a weekend off or a week, or even, who knows.
And did he visit Palestine at the time?
Yes, he was at Palestine. Also, I don't know what cities or what or how they landed up there, but he had been in Palestine.
And how did he communicate with your family when he was there?
And he was there just by letters. I think I've got them all here still.
Yeah, I got
And when was he thought to be missing in action?
It was a period when they were posted by boat to another part of Africa. Now I'm getting a bit confused. I know it was Kos Island, C-O-S.
Yes.
And we got all of a sudden these letters stopped, and then we got a report from the army headquarters here, or in South Africa I should say, saying your son's missing in action. And we all nearly died. But we didn't die, and he wasn't missing. And thank God for that.
Now you also said that your brother Mesh enlisted.
Yes. Yeah, Maish enlisted as an aircraft mechanic in the Air Force.
And do you know when he enlisted, the date?
Now, I can give you their army numbers if you want, both of them.
That is amazing. You have to put it. You have to tell me the army number.
But Jack's army number was 936421, V, being a volunteer, and Maish was 58178OV. Those were their army numbers.
You definitely have the award for the best memory of anyone that I've interviewed.
Well, it had an impact on me, you see, and I just remembered them.
Are you generally good with numbers?
I like numbers, yes. I don't know how good I am.
And can you memorize numbers easily?
I don't know. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I don't know.
He was written of
No,
all
that's...
number plates there.
Well, yeah, that's your car, my car, Jack's car, Simon's car.
Unbelievable.
So let's just go back to Maish. So where was Maish stationed?
Maish was stationed in South Africa for a long time. And
Whereabouts in South Africa?
Wonderboom, which was part of the Pretoria complex. He didn't go up north.
Yes.
Maish didn't go up north, but he was, because he joined up quite late. He was much younger, you see. Maish must have joined up. The war finished in 1945, May 45, and Maish had probably joined up in 44. Later, subsequent to all this, in the 1948 war in Israel, he went and fought there, and as an aircraft mechanic, kept the planes going. He had about 12 to 15 chaps working for him because he was a brilliant mechanic. I say it myself, it sounds like a boast, but facts are facts. And he was in charge of these 12 or 15 blokes working on aircraft, and not one of them spoke the same language as each other. He says it was a hell of a battle just to communicate with them.
I'd like to go into that in more detail a little bit later.
If I can, sure.
In the meantime, let's go back to your high school years. So
Right. The high school years, I was never the greatest scholar, I can tell you now. I was a naughty little bugger. I should have had my backside kicked many times for
what reason?
for not doing my homework and not naughty. I went to school, I didn't, but I was always quite satisfied with mediocre or on the better side results.
So was this an English-speaking high school?
Yes, English speaking.
And you said it was called a technical high school?
No, originally it was called the Johannesburg Technical College or something, and then it became Forest High School. And while I was at Forest High School, I had a 25th year anniversary celebration, where, a big fete, and films taken of us marching, cadets and cadet displays, and the little girls doing gymnastics, and it was like the Olympic Games.
So it was a co-ed school?
Co-ed, yeah.
And did you partake in cadets?
I had to.
Was that compulsory?
Yeah, Thursday afternoon was cadet day, boy, you had your uniform, and we had certain chaps, teachers who were attached to the army, so they took no bloody nonsense, you know, and we were really they were very, very strict. And we used to march and march. We had street marches, what do you call it, when you go, when they went on I've forgotten the expression, a parade through the streets.
You used to march through the streets?
With a band.
The band.
We had a cadet band, then we had cadet band competitions, and our school always did extremely well.
And do you remember what your uniforms looked like?
Yeah, sure. Little khaki shirt, khaki pants, black, I don't remember the colour of our socks, but I remember black shoes, and a cap. And we
What colour cap?
Khaki.
Khaki cap.
Khaki cap. you know, with a little peak in front.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, we all look damn nice, I can tell you.
And what was your favourite subject at school?
English,
English.
yeah. I liked English. And the subject I didn't like most of all was chemical science. You know, science was divided into two types, chemistry and physics. And I liked physics very, very much. But I was terrified of chemistry, and I never did well, and I had to go and study chemistry to make a living off. So I tried to become a pharmacist. I never qualified.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
And you said in the previous interview that you did a lot of swimming in high school.
Yes, I swam for my house. There were 6 houses, and we used to have, I wasn't good enough to swim for the school.
Yes.
Because I was an average swimmer, you know, from jawling with my mates in the water, you become a swimmer. And when your house needs somebody to swim for them, they take whoever can swim.
And what were your other leisure activities during high school?
During high school, I didn't do much. I used to do a lot of swimming. Played the accordion, by the way. I had my own piano accordion.
And did you get a chance to actually play in a band or anything with the
No,
accordion?
I just used to play with my mates. We used to sing, and that was all. But I had this accordion for a number of years.
Did you belong to any youth movement?
Yes, oh yes, I belonged to Jewish youth movements. I was involved with two of them. One was Mizrahi, the Frum one, and the other one was Hashomer Tzair Anfrum.
It's both sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely, but it was Hashomer Tzair that I had leanings towards. Went to camps with them, Bow Valley camp, raining, tents leaking, right to the business. And those were the two main things I was involved in.
And how did you socialise with Jews or non-Jews or both?
Well, I prefer Jews, mainly Jews, but you had no choice. You just socialised with everybody. You didn't want to become an outcast. There was a fair amount of bullying that took place, and I was always a smaller guy. I did quite a bit of hammering, actual physical, pushing at school as well as in the street.
And what about socialising? I mean, did you have parties, for example, or dances?
Well, there was always parties in our house. I didn't dance there. The only times I sort of seemed to dance was at weddings, all the weddings we had, and the school dance, of course. Took lovely little girls to the school dance and danced with them. One of them was a little shikseler called Sylvia McNaughton. Lovely girl. She came with me. I asked her, I had the plucked up the courage to come to the dance, and she said, sure.
Mm-hmm. What kind of dances did you do?
It was just waltz and foxtrot and quick step, and maybe they had one or two fancy dances, but it was mainly that.
And what kind of music?
The music was always provided by 2 or 3 blokes like a band who were in the matric class at school, the bigger boys, and one was a brilliant pianist. I remember his name was Nicholas, but I've forgotten his surname. Jesus, he could play the piano, boogie woogie and stuff. He played, man. Anyway, the band was that, and also they had records, you see.
Yes.
The current hits. We used to dance.
And what subjects did you do for matric, equivalent of HSC?
Right, it was English, Afrikaans, Latin, science, maths, and what we call applied science, or they called mechanics, applied science. Those were the 6 subjects. And it was not bad in all of them, except the chemistry side of science always pulled me down, and Afrikaans I was never very good at. Only in later years I became, when I opened up a business, I became far more fluent in Afrikaans, and I use it to this day. David and I speak quite frequently in Afrikaans to each other, and even with Heather, David's wife. I actually enjoy the fact that I know another language.
Yes, yes. And that no one else understands.
Yes, except those rare occasions where she says, "Ja, meneer, ek is bedien."
So when you finished school, before we go into what you did after school, can we speak about what your siblings were doing? So obviously Jack had returned
From the war.
From the war, 2.5 years. He was there for about 2.5 years.
Yeah, 27 months
27
exactly.
months. What did he do when he came back?
They opened up their own businesses. Jack opened up a firm called Levy and Smith. He worked in conjunction with two of them. They were partners, George Smith and another. But that broke up pretty quickly because George Smith wasn't a good man with his hands, and Jack couldn't stand it. Like, you know, when you put something in a vice and you're filing it in the vice, fine filing, you always put two metal coverings to hold that article in the vice so that if the file goes too deep, it doesn't damage the vice. It'll damage these two little L-shaped plates. And Jack was meticulous in the way he worked, always. I could show you the stuff here in the house that he made, but George Smith used to file in the vice without sitting, and my brother Jack just couldn't take that. Anyway, they broke up.
So what's his business instrument making?
Well, instrument making is...
Can you be more specific as to what his business was?
It's a fine, detailed fine manufacturing things like any sort of clocks, that type of thing. Not clocks on the wall, and
Yes.
that type of clock. I don't know what they call these things, all these gauges and things.
Yes, yes.
That
It was a sophisticated...
Yeah, it was really a sophisticated. Not everybody could do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't rough and ready like a fitter and turner, although that was his trade. Originally he was a fitter and turner.
Yes, Jack good with his hands. Man, recompose his master's voice.
Yes, he used to make all these things, you know, the old his master's voice emblem,
Yes.
the dog listening. He used to make that type of gramophone
Out
with
of
that big
first
speaker.
basic,
Yeah.
Everything, he was really very good with his hands, Jack.
And what happened after the partnership dissolved?
Then he retained the business, and it became very, very big and bigger and bigger and bigger until to this day it's a very big business. He sold out. Well, his son took over, Michael Levy, in Chicago, and
But Michael opened up the packaging.
and yeah, anyway, they had this very big business, and his son, and eventually they sold out.
And did he always support your mother?
Yes, they all of them did. She had no problems in that regard.
And did him and Zelda have any... Well, you mentioned already he had one son.
Yeah, they had 3 children. Michael, who lives in Chicago, married to Stephanie Modlin. And then Maureen Levy is married a chap called Shafter. Ray Shafter is non-Jewish, and they live in South Africa. He's very, very Jewish, but he's never McGuire. And then Hazel, who married and lives in not Atlanta, or Irvine, is it? Yeah.
Okay. So we're still talking about the time when you were around 17, 18. Now, did Harry get married?
Yes, Harry got married to Hilda Bauer.
How old was Harry when he got married?
Well, I can tell you, he got married on the 7th of June, 1939. because I remember all the birthdays now. And he was
It was
born
during the war, the beginning of the war,
uh,
1939.
no, sorry, yes, that was it, 1939. Jack attended that wedding, but he didn't attend any more of the weddings except our wedding. And they had...
Harry actually got married before Jack?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And Hilda Bauer, and they had 4 children. They had also Michael. All these Michaels were named after my late dad, Mayer. They had 4 children. Michael Myrna was the firstborn. She was born on the 7th of... Did I say they got married on the 7th of June?
Yeah,
They got married on the
1939.
7th of May.
May.
And Myrna was born on the 7th of June, 1940. And then they had Michael, who lives in South Africa today, also in the motor game. Harry was in the motor game. Michael got into the motor game. Then they had Denise, who's probably 66 or 68 today, very attractive young girl, and brother Frankie, born on the 17th of February. Oh, Denise was born on the 1st of August, 1944. Frankie was born on the 17th of February. I don't remember the year, but he committed suicide. Oh, no, he didn't. Didn't he drop? He dropped dead of a heart attack, didn't he, Mick? Hang on. No, he dropped dead of a heart attack. Very severe heart attack.
So Harry, or Simon as you call him,
Yeah.
did he eventually open up a garage of his own?
Yes, he had a garage of his own in Jeppe Street, went right through to Bree Street. He had a number of garages he worked in, but this was his big business.
When did he acquire his first garage?
No, I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
More or less, how old was he about?
I reckon he was in his between 25 and 30.
So fairly young.
Yeah. And then he had businesses and he worked in partnerships, and eventually on his own he had this big place called Harry Levy Service Station.
And
Yeah.
and Sarah, your sister,
Sarah.
so she originally started as a typist.
Yeah,
And did she also get married?
she married Wolfie Salminis. She was a diabetic, you know, did I
Yes,
mention?
You did mention that.
She married Wolfie Salminis
How old was she more or less when she got married?
on the older side, probably 30-ish. And she actually had 3 daughters. The
Yes.
first one died in infancy. And then she had 2, Ada
Yes.
and Aviva.
Did Sarah ever work after she was married?
I don't think so. She might have... When she married Wolfie, Wolfie had a concession store. That was a concession store, meaning the mines provided territories and shops for certain people if they had the money to open up stores. Every mine along the East Range had concession stores, big blankets, God knows what, selling to the black people.
Black miners.
Yeah, and Sarah, that's where she would have worked if she did. I remember her being in the shop.
And then there's your brother Norman.
Yes, Norman. What would you like to know?
When did he get married?
Norman got married in Trey got married in 1944 and Norman 43.
And who did Norman marry?
He married a second or third cousin of ours called Bella Conscious, C-O-N-T-I-U-S, Conscious. And her mother was distantly related to my mother. Mm-hmm. And they never had children. They adopted 2 children.
And what are the names, or were the names of the children?
The eldest one, Maya Levy, named after my dad, and the other one was called Shelley, Shelley.
And you said that he was a welder.
Yes.
And did he eventually own his own business?
Yes, he had his own business. Norbell Welders. Norbell, Norman and Bella, you see. Her name is Bella Conscious. So he opened up this business. He started this business and it became a very, very big welding. But they all made a lot of money from their business, from their two hands. They were very, very good.
And where was his business?
14 Small Street in the city.
Okay. I'm laughing because you're so good.
14 Small Street, S-M-A-L, Small Street.
And now let's move to Stella, your sister Stella.
Yes, Stella was a lovely, lovely girl, and she married a doctor called Solly Schippel. He was a gynecologist and obstetrician, and later became a big pathologist when he had his own business.
Yeah, he was a professor.
Yeah, he was a professor. He became ill, you know. He developed Atkinson's disease, which is deep pigmentation of the skin. They go very brown like Indians, and they can't get enough salt. Anyhow, they keep them alive, and he was kept alive.
Very religious.
And did they have any children?
Yes, they had three children. The oldest one was called Evelyn, who I loved dearly, and Marilyn, and Leonard, who was a Down syndrome child. Leonard Schippel. Evelyn lost her husband at a young age. He was only 55, and she was just coming out of mourning, just beginning to go out with friends. Maybe a year or a year and a half later, they forced her to come and have dinner with her. And one night, a stray bullet came into her shoulder. She was dead within an hour. She was literally killed. Yeah.
When you say
England's first in South Africa.
what do you mean by a stray bullet?
That is, I get worked up with this. These mad Khatais in South Africa would fire.
These Afrikaners.
Yeah, they would fire, and the blacks, I don't know, they got hold of a gun, they'd fire a bullet in the air. This is 300, 400, 500 yards away, and the bullet takes an arc and comes down to the earth. And this one, as she was getting out of this car, it was like she was called away by her husband, because they were a devoted couple. And he died. He just dropped also. He was a brilliant actuary with not Sun Life of Canada. What's the other one called? That big insurance companies. Oh God, it'll come to me.
Yes.
And he was giving a lecture one night, and he just dropped on the stage.
He started
and
with the lecture and he said,
just dropped.
I can't carry on, and then she dropped dead.
And then she looked. She was lost. They had 3 children. No, how many children did Evelyn have?
Yeah, the Saul and Jenny and Danny.
Yes, that's right, 3 children.
Hang on, we need to stop here for just a second.
Okay.
So, before we go. Okay, so this is Evelyn.
Yeah,
and this is what happened to Evelyn.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Evelyn.
And how old was she when this happened?
About 50-ish, I think. 50-ish. And you want to know more about her?
Yeah, well, if you please tell me.
Well, there's not much more I can tell you about her. She was a lovely, lovely girl. They lived at Sunstone in Israel for a couple of years, came back to South Africa, and we visited them in Israel in 1969. And then well, as I said, they had 3 children.
Yes.
These are their names and where they are today. all of them in Israel. And Marilyn, the sister, she's in Israel with a big family there, Monty Hilkovitz, her husband.
So they all gone aliyah to Israel?
Yeah,
No.
wealthy people. He was also an actuary.
Was
Monty, an actuary. But yeah, I just can't think of the name of the company.
fine.
I think it was Sunlight.
Wasn't Sun Life.
Right, so let's just finish this, your siblings before we have a little break. So let's speak about Faye now.
Yes.
When did Faye get married?
Faye got married the year before Norman, or the year after, I'm not sure, 1943. One of them got married in March 43 and one of them in March 44. I think Faye got married in March 43 and Norman in March 44.
And who did Faye marry?
She married a terrible bloke by the name of Harry Friedman. He was a bully. She was very weak, and she'd always been, I might have mentioned earlier,
She had rheumatic fever.
she had rheumatic fever, and she was prone to being bullied. Soft and good-natured, and Harry was unfortunately one of these bouvons from Russia,
Yes.
from the Heim, and he bullied her whole life.
And how did the family react to that?
Oh, Christ. We were desperately unhappy, but you know, it's a brother-in-law, and we all tried our best to, but he wasn't nice. He wasn't a nice man. God, this is going on record, you know, Mick. Anyway,
And did they have children?
they had 2 children,
3.
3 children. The eldest one, no, Aubrey was the eldest. He's a very from bloke today in South Africa. Aubrey and Rosalind Lieberochel, she's also very frum. Hang on, Nick. I'll do the talking. It's got its tune to my voice. Lieberochel, and then there was Leslie, who's also in South Africa.
And the first 2 are very from.
Yeah, but Lieberochel, she's unbelievable. She's here in Australia.
In which city?
Yeah,
Sydney?
in Sydney. She's net om die draai.
Yeah.
Just down the road.
Yeah, yeah. And why do you say she's unbelievable? In what way?
Did I say she's unbelievable? Frum.
From. Okay.
Yes, unbelievably from her. Her husband is like a rabbi. Beautiful white beard, I love it. Really a lovely one. And he's a geologist by trade, and he's extremely good with computers, repairing them, building them up and repairing them. But he's a hell of a from the 2 of them. So more than just Shomrei Shabbat,
Yes.
I can tell you that.
Yes. And then finally let's do Mesh.
Right, Maish, in 1948, when the war broke out, when Israel was declared a state by the United Nations, and the Arabs attacked them, in 7 countries attacked Israel, a number of South African Jewish boys went over to Israel to help them out. Now, Maish, being an aircraft mechanic, he really did extremely well there, did good. He was there a year.
And what city was he in, do you know?
No, no idea. I just know he did a lot of schlepping around,
Yeah.
but it was all in the open, desert camps. He didn't live in a city,
Yes.
and he married an Israeli girl.
Did he meet this girl while he was in Israel
Yes.
in 1948?
She was actually originally born in Germany, but she came out at the age of about 6 to Israel, or Palestine as it was then known.
What is her name?
Ruth Levy. She's alive today in her home in London with her son and her daughter. She's totally dementia, Alzheimer's. She just sits like a vegetable all the time.
What was she like as a young woman?
Oh, she was lovely.
Did
lovely.
she come back to South Africa?
Yes, she came back 1949, they came back, and she lived in till they all went to live in London.
Yeah. And what was she like as a young young?
She was a beautiful girl. Jesus, was she a lovely? She was so pretty. And a nice girl, very nice, nice-natured. Maish was a bit of a wilde chaya, he was a rough and tumble sort of, and she was just the. But Maish said he saw her doing in action in Israel, doing commando work. I think that's probably what attracted him to her in the first place.
Yes.
And she was good. And then I'm trying to think when they went to London. I opened up my garage in 19. The day the Six-Day War ended, that Shabbos, it ended on a Saturday. That's my first day in business.
Okay, we will come to that.
All right.
So after you finished matric, what did you do then?
I worked for 6 months for the Receiver of Revenues office in the old post office in Rissik Street, Johannesburg. As I said, in the Receiver of Revenues office.
How did you get that job?
I don't know. You see, my sister was associated with that.
Which sister?
Stella,
Yes.
with Crowdens and the pharmacy called Jeppy Subway Pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And apprenticeships are very hard to come by, but through Stella being the chemist fancied her, but Ken Hurwitz, and they used to get on well together, and he took me on as an apprentice, a pharmacy apprentice. But so in the interim, I got this job. I don't recall quite how. Must have been through maybe an agency of sorts.
So were you doing an apprenticeship and this job simultaneously?
No.
So where did you do your pharmaceutical apprenticeship?
At this shop in Jeppy Subway Pharmacy, which was associated with this Crowd Medicines, because Targovsky, the original owner of Jeppy Subway Pharmacy, owned Crowd Medicines. And then one of his apprentices by the name of Ken Hurwitz took over that business in Main Street, Jeppy, and I was apprenticed to him.
Did you actually choose this, or did your sister choose this apprenticeship for you?
I don't know. It must have been. I think they were all very keen for me to become something, because all my brothers had been tradesmen, and I was the only one that went to matric. And even then, I didn't pass straight flat out. I had a sup in my matric.
What was a SAP? Something you had to do afterwards.
Yeah, it was Latin.
Yeah.
Latin and Afrikaans.
Yeah.
But I passed the 2 subjects in the next 6 months. And then I got my full matric certificate.
And where did you have to study? Did you have to study while you were doing your apprenticeship?
Yes, it was at Johannesburg Technical College. It was night classes, 2 or 3 times a week.
And who paid for your tuition?
I think this was a government-sponsored thing.
Yes.
Yeah, the technical colleges were government-sponsored. Mm-hmm. I can't recall my mother ever having to pay it, because she wouldn't have had the money in any case.
Yes.
And
so did you work during the day and
work
study
during
in
the day? 2 or 3 nights a week. We went to the tech from about 6:30 to 9:30, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Or 6 to 9. We used to work till 6 at the shop. It was probably 6:30 to 9 or 9:30.
And did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it with all the bloody jawling that went on with the chaps there. But I was a very poor type of student. I don't think I was lazy. Should have had my backside kicked. I would have made big inroads into the more commercial world.
It sounds like you were having a good time.
Ah, yes.
So what were you doing while you were having a good time?
You mean?
What kind of activities were you doing when you were having this good time?
You mean at the tech?
Well, you said you were busy. You used the Afrikaans word jawling.
Yeah, well, we used to jawl around in the class, create. It was all noisy young buggers, all apprentices, mainly Jewish, just about 90%. And take notes and wait until then we could go. And if the teacher, like Miss Rogers was our one teacher for botany, she took us for botany, and she would walk out of the room, maybe, who knows, to go to the restroom or whatever. They'd be jumping over desks and everything. We all joined in.
Yes. And outside of your college and your work, what did you do?
No, nothing really. I just stayed. I was a very good apprentice in the sense that I did everything that was required of me. Yes. I learnt the game well, but I think I was lazy. I never qualified.
How many years did you do?
I was an apprentice. The apprenticeship normally lasts 3 years. Mine was just over 4 years. A lot due to the fact that I couldn't get in. I couldn't be enrolled as an apprentice until I had my matric, full matric.
Yes.
Which took me that 6 months, and then he did have an apprentice, Thora Udwin, ahead of me, and you had to get rid of the one apprentice before you could enroll the next one. And Thora Udwin, Jesus, I wonder what happened to her. But that was her name.
So so you didn't finish your course, is that right?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I finished my part one. It was just part one and part two.
Yeah.
Part two, there were 6 subjects, and I passed 5 of them, and I couldn't pass the 6th one, which was chemistry. Chemistry was again divided into chemical side and physical side. Physics, I never had a problem. Never had a problem. Chemistry, it was a bugbear in my life. And I couldn't pass chemistry. And eventually, I think I got married, March 1952.
So before you go on to getting married,
Yeah.
I want to talk about how you met your wife.
Okay.
Were you still an apprentice when you met Mick?
Yes, I was still doing pharmacy.
Can you tell me the full name of your wife?
Yeah, Miriam Levy. Miriam Abramovitz, she was. Big name, starts with an A, the next letter is a B, finishes with a Z, and a lot of 24 letters in between, and I promoted her to Levy. Big promotion.
Okay, so you also call your wife Mickey, so you both Mickey.
She was all known as Mickey before I even met her. In her family, she had a few cousins, Mickey Levy, male and female. Mickey.
Yes, yes.
Mickey Abramovitz and Mickey.
Yes.
And she was known as Mickey, and I was always known as Mickey. Only officially, like Michael at pharmacy and at high school, it was Michael. But I was always Mickey.
So Mickey met Mickey.
Mickey met Mickey, and I'll tell you that's a lovely story in itself.
I'd love to hear it.